How's it going, everyone? Today I'm going to be reviewing all of the aspect and basic player cards that were just released in the Black Panther Shuri hero pack. I'll be evaluating them based off of their power level as I see it, using some of the metrics I've talked about in my strategy videos like efficiency, flexibility, and tempo. And then at the end of the video, I'll be sorting my top 5 most powerful cards in a top 5 list. And the way I make this list, I sort of define it as the most influential cards from a power level perspective. So that definition sort of captures cards that are broadly useful, maybe to several decks, adding power to several decks, as well as a card's power level ceiling in the hands of a particular hero. So especially in this hero pack, we've got quite a few cards, or a handful of cards that are quite powerful in the hands of one of our Wakanda heroes, Black Panther, Shuri, or T'Challa. So I'm kind of weighing that against broad applicability of these cards. And we'll talk about every card. We'll start with the cards that didn't make my top 5, wrap it up with the top 5, and then talk about the reprints as well, which if you're a veteran player, you've probably got some opinion on these cards already. But if you're scoping out packs to buy, if you're newer to the game, then hopefully it'll be useful to go over those cards as well. So without further ado, let's start with the cards that did not make it into my top 5 ranking. First of these is Invisibility Gear. This is a 1-cost Justice upgrade. It's an item and attack. Play under any player's control, max 1 per player. Interrupt when an enemy would attack you. Discard Invisibility Gear. The enemy schemes instead. I'm going to make this one quick and save some time. This costs 2 ER. Generally, the converted resource value of stopping a villain activation is about 2 ER, so changing that activation from one to another, very rarely going to be worth 2 ER of value. Probably some really niche cases, right, where that's good for you. Not a great thing to plan on doing. Reads like it should have been a preparation, so I wonder why they didn't exactly do that. Maybe a flavor thing, but not really a strong card here at all. I'm just replacing one activation with another. Next card is Sting Operation. This is a 2-cost Justice upgrade. This one is a preparation and a tactic. It's max 1 per player. Response after a non-elite minion schemes. Discard Sting Operation. Discard that minion. This is another pretty weak effect. Well, I mean, granted, it's maybe not necessarily a weak effect, but for the cost of 3 ER to defeat a minion, but we're also letting it scheme. You could probably do some tricky stuff with it, you know, in a solo Justice deck where you never want to go to hero form. Like, yeah, sure, maybe this is one of the only ways you can deal with a minion, but we'd probably rather just use allies for that. 3 ER to kill a minion, that's maybe about right, maybe a little bit overkill. Most minions kind of in the 4 to 6 health range. It should take 2 to 3 ER to defeat. But you're letting it scheme, so if that's adding 1 or 2 threat, that's cutting into your value. So not a super exciting card. Next up is the Raft. This is a Justice support, 2-cost. Location and shield. Response after a minion leaves play, tuck it under here from the encounter discard pile. Remove threat from a scheme equal to the tucked minion's printed scheme. If there are at least 4 minions here, deal 1 random minion here to any player as a face-down encounter card. So I looked through on Marvel CDB just all minions, and I went through several pages, and like, because in my head I'm like, well, most minions are only 1 or 2 scheme. How many 3+ scheme minions do we have? And it's not 0, but it's incredibly few. So, you know, in general, when you defeat a minion, it's going to have a scheme value of 1 or 2. So if you defeat 4 minions with this, you're looking at somewhere between like 4 and 8 threat removed. Let's call it 6 threat removed on average. For a cost of 3 ER, that's about okay, right? I would say 2 threat per resource spent is a pretty good removal rate, but this is on quite a bit of a delay. Like how often would you rather just have a 4 Justice, remove 4 threat from a scheme right away, maybe defeat a side scheme, you know, unconditional. You don't have to you don't need to have a minion out in order to realize this threat removal. So it's slow, it's conditional, decent efficiency, but I think we can get just a similar efficiency from other Justice events, even for maybe worse events, but the tempo is just better, like I mentioned. There's kind of some cute stuff here with, being able to hide minions under it. This is a really, really marginal part of the card. Like it's pretty, once you defeat a minion, generally it's in the encounter discard pile. You maybe go through the deck again, depends how long your game is, but like it's only like a 50-50 chance you would even see it through the second pass of the deck. If the game's not that long, it's even less of a chance. So I don't think there's a ton of value there. And then, if you get above 4, you have to deal minions back to yourself, so you're kind of not getting value out of the threat removal there anymore. A couple of things I noted, it is a shield card. So if you're playing Government Liaison, you're playing a shield archetype, you can exhaust it with no cost to pay for like global logistics or homeland intervention. So that's kind of interesting, but I think there's a good enough density of cards to do that with already, like Field Agent. So not a card I'm huge on. Really cool card. Interesting design space. But I think when we're just trying to build the best, most consistent deck possible, we want our threat removal front loaded and not conditional on beating minions. Okay, last Justice card that is not in my top 5 is Going Undercover. This is a 0-cost player side scheme with Victory, as they all have. When defeated, the defeating player looks at the top 5 cards of the encounter deck. They may add 1 non-scenario specific card from among those to the Victory display, then place the rest on the top and or bottom of the encounter deck in any order. So in my recent Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. player card review video, just like this one, we talked about several cards that are manipulating the top of the encounter deck. And it's always, it always feels good to do that. You can feel nice and safe. But when you're spending ER to do that, you could just be spending resources to better prepare yourself for whatever those encounter cards may be. So in this case, you're spending the card from hand, probably about 2 resources to do the thwarting. So you're really now hoping to get 3 resources of value out of the shuffle around of encounter cards. And generally that's not going to be a favorable return. Even canceling something like an Under Fire, that's like canceling an entire encounter card. Well, the average encounter card is a little bit under like 3 resources that we would expect to defeat it. So look, player side schemes, they're always going to have a little bit of utility because this justice archetypes care about just defeating side schemes and sometimes having as many side schemes in their deck as possible just to always trigger their side scheme defeating stuff. So it might find a marginal home there, but even stacked up against other player side schemes, I don't think it's particularly noteworthy. Okay, moving on to, we got 1 aggression card from this Black Panther pack, which is a Justice Precon. The aggression card is called Target Spotter. This is a 1-cost aggression support. Persona and shield traits, uses 2 target counters. Interrupt when a minion would engage a player. Remove 1 target counter from here. That minion cannot activate until the end of the phase. Engage that minion. So this is another card. They seem to have sprinkled in all these cards over the last few sets that are kind of tech against the Thunderbolts, seemingly, because they're these really big minions that are really hard to kill in 1 turn, so they're going to activate against you. So stopping those minions from activating can be a useful effect. In general, another thing I talked about a bit in the last video, stopping minions from activating can also be done by defeating them, and that stops them from activating every turn after that as well. So generally not something I really am looking to spend resources on, stopping minion activations, when I could be just pulling those resources to killing them anyways. In a lot of cases, when a minion engages you, it's not going to activate that phase. It would need to have like Quick Strike or sort of come in off a boost ability, which can happen, but usually those kinds of minions are a little on the smaller end. One last thing this does is it does engage that minion. So in the case of Thor, when you got a multiplayer game, this could help you be the one to engage the minion that a different player has drawn. So that's a little tiny bit of value, which there's something there. I could see Thor playing maybe one of these. But overall, not a card I'm just going to be throwing in too many decks. We got one leadership card in this pack, that is White Wolf. This is a 3-cost leadership ally with 2 thwart, notably 2 consequential damage there, 2 attack, notably 0 consequential damage, and 3 health. It's got the Wakanda trait, and as a forced response, after White Wolf attacks, place 1 threat on the main scheme. So always notable when we get a 0 consequential damage ally, so in this case attacking for 2 with no consequential damage, but this is mitigated somewhat by needing to place 1 threat on the main scheme. Generally that's still a favorable exchange, 2 damage for 1 threat, but we would have to consider, I mean, part of the value of allies, or rather one of the drawbacks of allies, is kind of taking multiple turns to get your resource investment back. So if I'm spending 4 resources and the turn it comes down, all I'm doing is attacking for 2, but I'm also placing 1 threat on the main scheme, like that's a pretty low tempo play. I guess actually coming in and just thwarting for 2, even though it's 2 consequential damage, you're never going to take consequential damage from attacking, so you might just thwart for 2 right away when White Wolf comes down. But then like it's a positive but slow value exchange, attacking for 2 over and over again while adding threat to the main scheme. So it's got interesting possibilities for ally upgrade strategies, right? Increasing this attack, maybe using some ready effects for additional activations. You can kind of build around it in this sense. I just think, I'm pretty strict when it comes to allies. There's so many amazing allies that you can put in your deck and build around. Healing allies isn't too hard. I'd rather just get someone like Ronin, who you put a inspired on him, he gets an extra stat buff, and healing him is not too hard with first aid or innovation or some other things. So White Wolf has got no relevant traits. I mean, Wakanda is very slightly relevant in the hands of Shuri. She's got that elephant trunk card that lets you exhaust Wakanda allies to do stuff. But really, really sort of requires you to build around it in like some kind of ally upgrade strategy. Those strategies, I think, right, they're so low tempo that I don't consider them really top tier strategies. But that is a thing that you can do with it. So that's a White Wolf. So moving on, I'm just going to kind of show these cards as a trio. There's 3 of these basic allies with the Dora Milaje traits, as well as the Wakanda trait. So they're kind of a package deal. There's another card they came with called Dora Milaje. If you haven't seen the cards in this pack already, I'll talk about it later in my top 5. But if you know what that is, it's sort of these 4 cards sort of come as a package. There's a lot of synergy between these cards, so it doesn't really make sense to talk about one in isolation. So we'll talk about the allies here. I'll talk about Dora Milaje when I get to it in my top 5. But first, we've got Aneka, so 3-cost basic ally, 1 thwart, 2 attack, 3 health, passes baseline efficiency with that 2 attack stat and health equal to printed cost. As a response, after Aneka uses a basic power, resolve the special ability on another Dora Milaje ally. And Aneka has a special ability, remove 1 threat from a scheme. So the parallel to Aneka is AO, apologies. Another 3, same exact stats, but its special is deal 1 damage to an enemy. So the idea is if you had these 2 out together, you would activate 1 and trigger the special on the other, and vice versa. And then there's a third one, which is Okoye. She's 4 cost, 2 thwart, 2 attack, 3 health. Got the same response here after Okoye uses a basic power, resolve the special ability on another Dora Milaje ally. Her special is choose a Wakanda hero or ally. They get +1 thwart and +1 attack until the end of the phase. So Okoye doesn't quite meet the baseline efficiency. She costs 1 resource more without having, a surplus of value to really make up for it. Having a special ability, her special ability to give a Wakanda hero or ally +1 thwart, +1 attack. There's a little bit more flexibility there. as well as Okoye's stat. She has 2 thwart and 2 attack, so she's a little more flexible with her activations, but she's a little bit less efficient overall. But each activation of these is pretty good. I said Okoye she's less efficient by comparison, but by getting that special ability of triggering another ally, she's going to do an extra, 2 damage or 2 threat removed from schemes from her activation. So she does actually hit the baseline efficiency. So these cards, they're not crazy just on their own. You kind of need to have 2 out to really feel like you're doing something with the value, especially, again, just compared to all the great allies we have in the game. But I do think there is a reason to play these cards, and that's with the Dora Milaje support, which I will talk about in my top 5 list momentarily. So for now, you would never play these cards in a deck without having that support. On their own, they're not very good. I left them outside my top 5. I almost just grouped them all 4 together and stuck them in my top 5, but I like having a clean 5 cards for the top 5. So touch on these guys a bit in a second once I talk about that support. But for now, that wraps up my the cards that were outside of my top 5 from a power level perspective. So now moving into my top 5. Once again, some of these might have a high ceiling with individual heroes. Some might just contribute overall power to several heroes. And in general, if you want to fight me on the exact rankings I've done, I'm not going to fight you too hard on that. But if I've missed a use case of some of these cards or overlooked some drawback to them, please let me know about it, and I look forward to reading your comments always. But in my opinion, here are the top 5 most influential cards from the Shuri pack from a power level perspective. At number 5, I've got the team-up card, Heart of the Panther. So this is a 2-cost basic event team-up with Black Panther T'Challa and Black Panther Shuri, max 1 per deck. I wish I knew. I honestly don't know. I'll see if someone's replied to me in Discord yet. No, nobody replied to me. Okay, so right, I'm not 100% sure what side you need to be on to play this team-up card, because it's got the slash in there, Black Panther / T'Challa, Black Panther / Shuri. Certainly the person who plays this card needs to be in hero form, because the text is a hero action, which I guess I haven't read yet. Hero action, search your deck and discard pile for a Black Panther upgrade and put it into play. Resolve the special ability on up to 4 Black Panther upgrades you control in any order. So really cool design. Right, this isn't really a hero pack review, but the design of the Black Panther Shuri hero pack is quite incredible. I think it's such a cool parallel to Black Panther T'Challa while being uniquely different. But so they found a really cool ability that works for both characters, because they both have these 4 Black Panther upgrades with special abilities that can get triggered by this. So I had a team up card in my last video that I talked about as well. You could argue, just as I did in that last one, that this is actually the most powerful card of the entire hero pack, but it is the most restrictive with when you can play it, because you need these 2 specific characters in play. In general, it's going to be easier when these are 2 identities that you're playing. Both characters do have the potential to play it because their signature ally is named this as well. And actually, now that I think about it, the fact that the signature, so like Black Panther T'Challa's signature ally is just called Shuri, and this card is designed to work with Shuri. So I would expect that if you're the Black Panther hero and you're playing with the other Black Panther Shuri identity, that Shuri could be on either side as you play Heart of the Panther. I sort of talked myself into that, which does make this significantly better than several other team-up cards that require a specific form for the other identity. But back to the card here and what it does. So Black Panther, T'Challa, and Shuri both have these 2-cost Black Panther upgrades. So this just searches and puts 1 into play. So that's immediately giving you the 2 resources of value, 3 ER of value that you paid into it. And in addition, you resolve the special ability on all of your Black Panther upgrades, which is going to vary in resource value as well, depending on the amount of those you have in play, but is obviously a strong value. If you think about the card Wakanda Forever, that's a 2 ER card, so you're kind of getting 5 ER of value here with with a 3 ER upgrade and a 2 ER Wakanda Forever. So just really, really incredible effect. Very high floor just because you get to put something in play, very high ceiling because if you've got all 4 of your upgrades out, you could trigger all 4 of them. So really, really powerful card. Could be number 1 overall just from a power level perspective, but just because it's for a pretty unique situation, only 2 heroes, and ideally those 2 heroes playing together in a multiplayer game, I've only kept it at number 5. At number 4, I've got Infiltration. This is a 1-cost Justice event that is a thwart. Hero action, choose a number from 1 to 5, discard that many cards from the top of the encounter deck, remove 1 threat from a scheme for each card discarded this way, put 1 minion discarded this way into play, engaged with you. So this is a very efficient threat removal card, the minion engagement notwithstanding. So 2 ER for 5 threat removed is really excellent. I generally like 2 threat removed per resource, which even that I always admit is a little bit ambitious. So 2 ER for 5 threat, 2.5 threat per resource there. Really, really efficient. Now, let's talk about the downside though. You have to engage a minion discarded from the deck. So there are going to be some matchups where I'm just going to be too scared to even play this card, probably. So the fact that you can miss entirely, you might mill 5 cards and miss entirely, and then this is an incredible, incredible thwart event. There are times when you'll just draw kind of an average minion. I think if I am playing this card, it's got to be like, I've either got to be playing Turn the Tides. I think the timing works out there. Actually, sorry, I'm not going to think about that right here. I hope the timing works out there. But if it works out with the timing, this might defeat some side scheme. You get the minion, Turn the Tide to kill it right away. Turn the Tide is a hyper efficient card. So I think all total what's going on there. I guess that would basically make it like 3 ER for 5 threat removed, which is a little bit worse. But at least that's a kind of way to make use out of Turn the Tide that you might not always get that value. But in general, I think a multiplayer game is going to be a little more where you want this card with a Minion Slayer deck on the table, someone who really wants minions out every turn to be defeating and triggering their various cards. Thor would be happy to play this. Thor, pretty light on threat removal to begin with. This gives him another way to, obviously remove threat and engage a minion to draw cards, triggering his hero ability. One thing I haven't mentioned, so one of the best, certainly like a top 5 Justice card is Overwatch. When you remove threat with a thwart, you trigger Overwatch to remove that much threat from another scheme. And kind of the most we can do in Justice right now is 6 with Crisis Averted, which is a 3 cost or 4 ER cost card. So being able to combo that with Infiltration is insane efficiency. Now I'm double counting a little bit because I'm kind of sharing the Overwatch value with this. But in the case of Overwatch, that's a single card that's going to remove another 5 threat if you combo it with Infiltration. So being able to pull off that combo is kind of why I've put it in here at number 4, even though on balance, maybe drawing a minion, really cuts into the efficiency of this card. But comboing it with Overwatch is extremely strong. There's a chance that you do just miss a minion. It's modular to the amount of threat you need to remove. Say you only need to remove 4, or maybe you only need to remove 3. It's still not atrocious efficiency, and you do decrease your likelihood of drawing a minion. But I would definitely know what's in your encounter deck. What are the worst minions you could be drawing, in which case this card could even hurt you more than it helps you. Okay, going on to number 3. So here is the Dora Milaje. I mentioned this card as I was talking about the Dora Milaje allies. And this is a 3 cost basic support. With the Wakanda trait, ignore this card's resource cost if your identity has the Wakanda trait. So only Shuri and T'Challa for now. And it's got an action, exhaust Dora Milaje, resolve the special ability on 1 Dora Milaje ally, and heal 1 damage from that ally. So the allies themselves, we talked about a little bit on the mediocre side, like okay, but obviously there's a lot of competition for allies. This card is crazy. This is a 1 ER card. I don't think you're ever really going to play this package outside of a Wakanda traded hero. But 1 ER card, action to heal an ally and trigger its ability. So its ability is generally half an ER. We saw the 1 threat removed or 1 damage dealt. Healing it is worth like 1.5 ER because they're attacking for 2 or thwarting for 2, plus that extra half a resource, hopefully of value from triggering the special of a second Dora Milaje ally. So each use of this support is like 2 ER of value. So really incredibly strong. In the case of Shuri specifically, she's got that elephant trunk. So this is another card that can exhaust to draw an additional card with elephant trunk. I guess this card does need to exhaust to do its regular action, but you can play this on turn 1, turn 2, before you've maybe gotten one of these Dora Milaje allies into play, and start using it for that effect, which would be a good use of it in the meantime. So I like this package a lot in the hands of T'Challa and Shuri. I think the thing that's making me second guess is just you really do need like 2 of these allies out to get the max value, and that's a lot harder than it sounds. We can often get away with protecting 1 ally, giving it an upgrade, healing it or whatever, but in our high power level decks, we really want to cycle through our ally slots, get their value and block, get their value and block. So maintaining 2 of our ally slots with kind of persistent allies, that can be a little bit tricky to manage. There's often going to be a time where we need to block with one of them because of a villain attack coming in. That being said, I mean, the value from Dora Milaje, it's not, you can still heal up 1 ally, even if you're not activating it optimally, just playing like Aneka and the Dora Milaje support, like that's going to be just a consistent 2 attack turn after turn after turn. And when you do eventually get a window to play a second one, the value is only going to increase from there. So I'm excited. I'm planning to put this package in the heroic video I have planned with Shuri. So I think there's some strength here for those 2 specific heroes. Okay, almost done here. At number 2 in my list, we've got the ally Manifold, 3-cost Justice ally with 2 thwart, 1 attack, and 2 health. He's got the Avenger and Wakanda traits. Response: after Manifold enters play, choose a player. That player searches their deck and discard pile for a player side scheme and adds it to their hand. So Manifold is kind of 1 point shy of baseline efficiency, would either need to cost 1 fewer resource or have 1 additional health point. But he fully recoups that with this response of drawing a card from the deck. But really, when you look at what this response is, tutoring a side scheme from any player's deck, you don't even need to pick yourself with this, it can be any player. Tutoring is inherently stronger than just getting a 1 resource discount on something else, for example, because you can tutor for something that is just exactly what you need in the given situation, whether it's because of different costs of cards you could tutor for to help you play out your entire hand of resources, because you could get a 0 or a 1 cost player side scheme, or you could just get the player side scheme that's really relevant to what you need to do right now. You could take out the guards because you really need to kill a minion that's out there, or you could get build support because it's turn 1 of the game and it's really powerful to clear build support on turn 1. Player side schemes especially, they really amplify in value as we go to higher player count games. So the fixed cost of a player side scheme, obviously doesn't change depending on the player count. Only the scaling threat that you need to clear changes. So the sort of cost per player to defeat a player side scheme decreases as you increase the player count. So Manifold in like a 3 or 4 player game, it's not just drawing a card from your deck. It might be drawing the most powerful card from your deck in that situation. Just imagine turn 1, drawing out that build support. You can start thwarting it. Second player, maybe third player, keep thwarting it down, and now everyone's got a 2 or 3 cost support. Massive consistency boost, massive value in that multiplayer case, and really can go in lots of different decks. I mean, this is not like Dora Milaje where it's just the Wakanda heroes that can really get value from it. I mean, any Justice deck with a player side scheme that you're built around is really going to want to play Manifold. And that's kind of the nature of player side schemes as well, is helping you build around a particular effect. You know, build support is already making someone like, T'Challa comes to mind first, but someone like T'Challa who's got the Golden City, incredibly powerful support. Build support already makes him much more consistent because it's like a second copy of the Golden City. Manifold, now this is like a third copy of the Golden City, and you gotta jump through a couple hoops to get there, but the consistency, the power level is just really strong with Manifold. Could have made a strong argument for number 1, I think, but I've got him at number 2. Moving on to number 1 card from the Black Panther Shuri hero pack, I've got is Show of Empathy. This is a really interesting card, 0 cost player side scheme, Injustice. With victory and forced interrupt when threat is removed from the scheme, place that threat on a non-elite minion. If that minion has threat on it equal to or greater than its remaining hit points, add Show of Empathy to the victory display and attach 1 set-aside copy of Redemption to that minion. So Redemption is this linked card that starts outside the game, and it's an upgrade that attaches, as we read, attaches to the minion that you've put threat on. You take control of attached minion and treat it as a redeemed ally with a blank text box. Its thwart is equal to its printed scheme, and it takes 1 consequential damage after it thwarts or attacks. So taking control of that minion is such massive value. So if you think about it, Show of Empathy, it costs 1 resource from hand to play the player side scheme. With my converted resource values, right, I say that threat removal comes at about the same rate as minion damage. It should be a little bit less, but like it's not that far behind if it is less. So you're basically exchanging, each point of threat is kind of like dealing 1 damage to that minion, because then you want to put threat on it equal to its hit points. But then once you've done that, you just get the full health minion as an ally. So that's kind of net neutral, paying the thwart versus dealing the damage. But then it's like you paid this 1 resource from hand to get a full health ally, which is amazing. Even just like, what would a 1 cost ally even look like? We don't get 1 ER allies. Say you get like a 3 health minion with 2 attack. That's like a 4 ER ally, which we effectively paid 1 ER for. Player side schemes are always going to have this benefit of flexibility, right? Because we can just play it out there. It doesn't need to be a minion out yet. We can just wait for a minion to come out, maybe a minion that we're on a turn that we're not equipped to deal with it with damage, but we'll say we've got some thwarting in hand, we can thwart this to defeat the minion and take it. I think in practice, a lot of the time, I'm just going to defeat this as soon as a minion comes out, because that turnaround on value of making that minion an ally is such incredible value. The 0 cost card, we love 0 cost cards. They really help make our turn efficient. We're never going to end that turn with 1 card left over in hand. We can just play the 0 cost card. In practice, that might not actually happen, because I think this is a card I'm just going to play no matter what, even if it makes the rest of my turn inefficient, because it's so inefficient to turn this 1 resource into a full health ally. So there we go. Show of Empathy, strongest card in my opinion in the Black Panther Shuri pack. Let me know if you think a different card is stronger, or if there's even something good about Show of Empathy I've not even considered, because honestly, I feel like I'm missing something. It does have to be a non-elite minion, I guess, But I mean, there's still plenty of non-elite minions. So, all right, there we go. I'll mention real quick the reprints in case you are a newer player and trying to get some of these cards for the first time. There's not too many here. One is Sonic Rifle. Sonic Rifle. I forget what it first came in. Maybe Venom. Sonic Rifle is a 3-cost Justice upgrade. It's a tech and a weapon. It's restricted. It comes in with 2 charge counters as a hero action. Exhaust Sonic Rifle and remove 1 charge counter from it. Confuse an enemy. Deal 3 damage to that enemy instead if it is already confused. So this is just a real solid status applier. Costs 4 ER. Gives 2 status cards, 2 villain activations, which is a very fair conversion. I generally say about 2 ER is the value of blocking 1 villain activation. So nice, just solid, confusing, always very strong. Justice tends to do it a bit more. It's not as strong, the comparative advantage isn't as strong as if it were in aggression or protection, but confusing, always good. It's a tech. Some heroes care about that a little bit. Obviously makes a lot of sense with Shuri, came in her pack because she has this alter ego ability to play a tech from your deck at a discount of 2. Sonic Rifle, extremely strong card to get with that effect. Other heroes you might consider playing it. Basically if you're not really encumbered on your restricted slots, this is just like a solid include. And if you're not already, playing tons of confuse effects that are going to be redundant with this, it's a confuse on demand for like vulnerable minions in the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Expansion. That's a really nice aspect of it. Just can't go too wrong with this card. It's just not like a ridiculous ceiling, but it's a very solid floor. Confusing is very strong, so definitely a good inclusion in this pack. And then the last one here is Build Support. So I mentioned this one talking about a couple of those other cards. One of just the premier player side schemes. 1-cost basic player side scheme. Comes in with 3 threat per player. When defeated, each player may search their deck and discard pile for a support with a cost of 3 or less and put it into play. So a lot of the time we're playing really powerful, or our hero comes with really powerful identity specific supports that this can help cheat into play. If we've got a build around support, say we're playing an Uncanny X-Men deck, we really want to get that in play as soon as possible so we can defeat this to help us find that. And even just from a raw value standpoint, I'll put Build Support in decks, just to get a Helicarrier out. Like maybe I don't have anything great to get from the archetype I'm playing, but I'll just use it to help me get out a Quinn Carrier or a Helicarrier, because when you look at the sort of the cost that goes into it in a solo game, 2 ER to play, maybe a 1.5 ER to defeat, so that's like 3.5 to 4 ER total to defeat this, and you get a 3-cost 4 ER support from your deck. That's just like a good exchange. It's just another way to get a really powerful resource generator into play. And in multiplayer, it gets ridiculous. Talked about that when talking about Manifold. One of the, all the player side schemes are excellent multiplayer cards. So that's not from too old of an expansion, so I would definitely recommend getting Next Evolution. All the expansion boxes are always good purchases, but Build Support, very strong card. And honestly, a card that it's great to have 2 copies of. Put it in 2 decks. They're not unique or anything, so, or I guess they are unique, but once one is in the victory display, you just play the other one. That's totally fine. So great addition here as well. And yeah, overall, I think, there were quite a few cards there that were kind of duds. Initially, I thought there was quite a few, but then talking about Manifold, talking about Show of Empathy, those are a couple pretty pushed cards. So, and cards that can go in like any Justice deck, like I mentioned. So I think those would be kind of the chase cards from this pack, from just a power level perspective. If you really like, obviously, Black Panther T'Challa, tons of fun new stuff in here to play with him. The Dora Milaje suite of cards. Couple interesting build-aroundy things for particular heroes. Target Spotter, White Wolf have some niche applications, not someone I'm going to be, not something that's really pulling me strongly towards this pack, but a couple interesting things going on. But just the fact that the top cards in this pack are pretty general justice cards, I think this makes this a pretty strong buy. And assuming you've bought the core set already, it really reinforces a core set. You don't need to go out of your way to buy another hero pack in order to take full advantage of some of these cards. So a solid pack overall from a power level standpoint. Thanks for watching this video. Let me know if you disagreed with me on anything, or if I forgot any limitations or extra upsides of cards. And we'll see you in the next video.